Okay, this excerpt is about tone and phrasings, right? Right, so the first entrance here, you have to think about your tone, what kind of tone you want. Now, I think this is something still full, but not so into the strings, and not too light either. So you definitely don't want to go surfacey like this. I will put more weight into my bow, so still my instrument's ringing fully, just not like this way, you know? So that would be too light. I think this is just about right. If I go more, this just becomes a little too dense and too heavy, which I don't want to do that here. Okay, so that's something you need to like experiment and decide what you want to do with it, okay? And practice without the vibrato. Because if you can't play with a beautiful tone without a vibrato, vibrato is not going to really save you, okay? So practice without it. Right. And then once you are happy with what you do without a vibrato, then you can have vibrato. Okay, so instead of this just becomes now. Okay, I would use a faster, wider vibrato. Definitely wide. If you don't go slower, I think that's okay. I just prefer a little faster, but that's just my preference, okay? But I think wide is better than narrow for this one. It just sounds more romantic that way, in my opinion, okay? Yeah, so find what kind of vibrato you like, what kind of tone you like. That's really, really important, okay? Okay, here, so you're gonna do a crescendo, right? Now, on the C, just float a little longer than what it says. I mean, just a split second longer before you go down onto the B flat, okay? Just a little makes a big difference here, okay? And then always think about how you end your phrase, okay? So this A natural should still have a beautiful expression on the last note, okay? Even more the second time. And you can stretch a little bit if you want to. Going to the top note here, so stretch it a little bit. Again, you flow a little bit. Okay, just a tiny bit, okay? The same thing, the last note. Make sure this D has a nice, beautiful ring to it. Now we accompany the piano part, right? Because we're just playing the first half of this entire phrase, right? So we finish it, and then the piano takes over, right? Wow, it's an octave lower. Right, and it finishes the phrase, and then we accompany. Now the cello part is doing the same 16th notes with you. It's just not the same octave, but the same note. So even though the cellist is not playing with you for this audition, you still think about the cellist, kind of playing with you. Those things all, makes a big difference. Okay. You down bow, up bow, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. But let's make sure the first note has a nice expression again, okay? Each note is really important. Some notes are more important than other notes, but you can't throw away any of the notes here, okay? So what I would do to practice is I would just exaggerate first. Something like this, Just play the D longer. Make sure that has a nice, beautiful tone to it. And go on. You can start up bow too. Okay, Okay, and then to try to make the D a little shorter so it it doesn't sound too long. Okay, and then okay, and you always shape these notes, otherwise they just sound dry and uninteresting. Okay, so I think this one first just kind of goes down to the D, right, and then this goes down to the E natural, right? So I would do a crescendo on this one. And then from here on, you have to pick out the important notes, which are, right? And you do even more crescendo towards the bottom A, okay? See if you can vibrate on those important notes. So E natural, D, C sharp, B flat, and then A, of course. Right? You can play this A a little longer, and then you kind of go up from there. So even though the crescendo still keeps going, I think it's okay to just loosen up just a tiny bit here after you hit the A. Still keep it kind of strong, okay? And then piano here. And then again, think about the important notes. I think the important notes are these ones. So that's what I would emphasize. So again, I'm trying to vibrate on those important notes. And I put a little extra weight on my bow too. This one, it's like a pickup. Those four notes, last four notes are pickups. That's a resolution onto the A. And then you take over the melody again, right? Okay. These two notes, these two notes should go up in volume. We have crescendo, right? So we have two quarter note pickups to the D. Now, if you're doing up bow, down bow, then you have to get to this high D at the tip of your bow, which is difficult to do when you're trying to do a crescendo with it, okay? So, what I would do here, I would use the faster bow speed towards the tip, and then add a little bit extra weight with it too, but more speed than the weight, okay? Again, I think this music should still flow. The tone itself should have a, I don't know, kind of nice flowing sort of feel to that, and if you put too much weight, then everything becomes kind of dense. And there are times that's great, but in this case, I think it's better the other way. Okay, still kind of light, and so see again without the vibrato, this sort of bow stroke. You increase the bow speed, and just help the crescendo with the weight a little bit. And up, turn your bow out too. So at the frog, right, your bow's turned in. As you go towards the tip, you flatten your bow so you don't go like this way, but your bow turns out a little bit. So when you turn your bow around, that's the fastest with the bow speed, right? This one's a little easier if you're coming down to down bow, but you're gonna do the same thing anyway, okay? Crescendo to the D. Okay, here. The key is the 16th notes. If you can put expression on the 16th notes, it sounds a lot more musical. okay? This one. This one. Okay, so don't throw those away. I mean, there's not much you can do, but if you just think that those 16th notes, those really tiny notes are important, that makes a big difference in your playing, okay? Because what we do is that we tend to make it a little longer when you think about playing a little more importantly, right? And then that's all we need to do, really, okay? You just don't want to play too fast on the 16th note. Now we pull back with the crescendo. Pull back, pull back, pull back. And release. Okay. If your G is a little long, I think it's fine. And if you play it long enough, your bow just will naturally wants to do a diminuendo because you're going towards the tip, right? I would just let that happen. Right? Again, here one, this one too. See, I would just let this second beat, the A, dotted eighth note A, just let that flow a little longer, right before you get to the 16th note. Okay. Again, this eighth note should not be too short. Okay, to the next measure. Again, expression on the A. Now, you go up to the D. This is a singing accent, not an attack accent. Right? And you try again. Second time is a little bit more than the first time, right? And if that still wasn't enough, now we have the third time. This we really get to the F, okay? So each time you start to use more bow on the eighth notes, yeah? Again, pull this back, okay? Going to the F, pull back here, and then stay a little longer before you get to the E flat. Right, and then, that was the wrong finger, sorry. And diminuendo to the A. Okay, and pull back in tempo as well. You make a nice soft landing on that downbeat, okay? And then when you play this long note, again, you don't have to be in tempo here. Wait for the piano to finish the 16th notes. You should be able to hear this piano part in your head, okay? Piano will end on the third beat. And then go, okay? So it doesn't have to be 1 and 2 and 3 and go, okay? You can take time. No one plays on the third beat, fourth beat. Piano comes in on the first beat. But yeah, that's all it does. So it's really, it's like your mini cadenza here, okay? Now go to the C, okay? But then that C is still a pickup to the next downbeat. So first you go here, but you want to get to F, that's the destination, okay? And you can play straight with your bow, but if you can do a little portato where you go push a little on each note, that gives a little more extra expression in your phrase, okay? It's like just a little bit. Okay, you go to the F. Now after that is all light and sempre in tempo e senza ritardando, and you need to follow that. This excerpt is worth spending time on. Your tone, your vibrato, your phrasing, there are a lot of things you can do, okay? So I hope you enjoy practicing this one.